All right guys, now we are in Lightroom, and as you can see, this image here looks pretty dark. There is still a little bit of nice blue light up here in the sky. Let's look at the details here. So this was taken at 1/5 of a second, 2.8, ISO is 400. So this is, yeah, the ISO is quite high. I probably wouldn't go any higher, as I mentioned before. In the raw image, you can have a look here. You can see all the little noise happening. And it's slightly out of focus. I think there would have been a little bit of a camera shake going on at the time that I took this shot. But look, to be honest, this is probably going on Instagram anyway. And realistically, the size of this image will be really small, so it doesn't really matter. To the untrained eye, they will most likely not pick that up. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, let's just press R here, or the crop tool here, and let's just get this nice and straight. Make sure horizons are straight. Rule number 1, enter there. And then what we'll do, we'll start making some adjustments. So I'm gonna bring up the brightness a little bit. Up here on the exposure, highlights, I'm going to drop down a tad, shadows, bump that up a bit so we can bring a little bit more detail here. Remember, the more detail you bring up, the more dirty noise you'll see here, because the camera was struggling to kind of find or to add in all that extra information that it didn't have. Clarity, I'm going to crank that up a bit. Dehaze is a nice one, removes all the grey parts of the haze in the air. Vibrance, I won't play around with that just yet. Point curve, I'm going to add a medium contrast to it. You can also adjust it how you'd like, either the mids or the high parts of the image. Sharpening, this is important. So masking tool here, if you hit the option key and then slide it around, everything there that's white at this end of the mask will be sharp. So if you drag it out to the right, I don't want the water or the sky to be sharp because there's not really much there. I just want the pier and the buildings to be sharp. So I'm going to move it right up to about here. Good. And now I can start sharpening up the image. Zooming in to maybe the buildings here and the pier. Just playing back and forth just to see if it makes much of a difference. It does a little bit. Now at the same time, I'm going to start removing some of the extra noise in the shot. So crank that up a little bit. It does make it look a little bit more milky-ish. The color, if we crank the color a little bit, that will remove the like the little purples and blues you see in the noisy parts. So I'll show you what I mean if I remove the color there. See these little like splotches of green? I have to get rid of that, so I'll crank it to about there, and that disappears. All right, so that's looking good so far. Keep going down, and transform. So what I'm gonna do, it's looking a little bit skewed a little bit, so I'm gonna just transform, no, not that, the horizontal, just to kind of straighten this bad boy up a bit. That, just play around so it's nice and straight. You got some nice lines happening. Whoops. Probably even just resize it a little bit more to suit. Unfortunately, I'm going to cut that off, but yeah, I want to kind of get the Eureka Tower in there, but I'm running out of image. That's cool. I'll just show you a basic edit first. Hue, so the kind of look that I want for this, I'm gonna try and drop the reds a little bit because I want a bit of an orange teal kind of scenario happening. There we go. So let's bring that color out a bit. Scroll down, and I'm gonna go add a bit of vignetting. That's kind of nice. Now back up the top, I'm going to add a gradient filter. I'm just going to drop that over like this, reset it drop the exposure down a tad. Bring it a little bit over the city, and as you can see, it drops all the brightness of the lights, but it also adds a little bit more detail, which kind of looks cool. Play with the color temp to see if that works. There's a lot of really over-the-top reds happening here, so I'm going to eliminate that in a minute. But let's just try and get the color that we want first. Add a bit of saturation again. Dehaze it. And that should look good. So that's before, that's after. It's kind of getting there. Let's go down and sort out this red biz. Okay, so the hue is basically the whole color of that orange palette changing. You can go from right up to yellow or to really deep orange, almost a red color. Gonna keep it around, or just a little bit of orange in there, not over the top. Cool. And then I might actually start another filter from the bottom going up, just to kind of bring those details back up there. Like that, add a bit of clarity. Drop the contrast, bit of exposure just to light it up a bit, not too much. Cool. Let me just quickly check what I did. Might even crop that in a little bit more. Now, back to the blues, I'm going to add a bit more teal. It's way too much. Alright, cool. And then saturation, let's have a look at the yellows and the oranges. Bring the orange down a bit. Blues, not too much. It's looking okay. Zoom in. So there's not much we can do about the blurriness because it shook a little bit when we took the shot. Looking pretty good. Let me just straighten that up. And what else was there? A bit darker in here. So I'm going to add another filter over the top, which is, I'm going to add a nice tinge kind of color to it. So if you click this little button down here, you can play with the standard colors that it gives you, which is kind of playing it safe. This is a nice color, so a little bit too orangey here for me. I'm going to go with something like along about these lines here. And then you can adjust the intensity of it here as well. So that's a little bit too much. I'm going to bring it down to the grays. It's a bit better. Okay, cool. That's looking good. Take that off. I think that's looking pretty good. I wonder if we can kind of fix a little bit of this, like sharpen up the lights up here a bit more. So I'm gonna make a custom. I'm gonna use my brush and just paint this, the city lights mainly, and see what we can do. Add a bit of brightness. Pops a little bit too much, but if you bring down the exposure, the lights don't have that massive glow around the edge, and it looks like it's a little bit, it looks like it's more in focus. All right, now speaking of the brush, what I want to do is in this image I want to make this stand out or pop a little bit more because this is the main feature, and then also some of these properties down here. So I'm going to go to the brush, custom brush, and then just slowly start painting this. Increase the exposure. Yeah, so that's coming to life a little bit more. Maybe down here. Create a new brush and then we're gonna go do the pier. Okay, exposure, crank it up. Let's see what it looks like. It's pretty intense in the middle, isn't it? So let's brush some more down here. A little bit more. Add a bit of clarity. And then also blacks. Let's bring the blacks back in. All right, maybe drop that thing a bit. Yep, so it's not over the top, but it's just enough to kind of focus your eyes on the pier when you first see the image. All right, a little bit more down here. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that at the moment. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, the image could be improved when I actually took the shot, because there's a lot of blurriness going on here. But I mean, if you have a look at before and after, it's kind of a nice improvement. It's not the best, yes, I agree, but it isn't too bad. It's just, I mean, this is just to give you a bit of an idea of how you can take shots at night. I'm gonna add a bit more vignetting, not over the top. Cool. Maybe to about there. Just to kind of bring the focus in on this pier. All right, I think I'm pretty much happy with that for the moment. Look, I can spend hours on this, tweaking and modifying, but I won't. So there you have it. Now you're done, and then you can go and export it out to wherever.